Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and I'm going to be starting a 3-part series on the Eightfold Path. Over the next 3 Sundays, I'm going to be helping you get in detail with the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha. We're going to break it down into the 3 sections of wisdom, moral conduct, and mental discipline, helping you to dive in deep to understand what is the path to enlightenment. In terms of the teachings of the Buddha, you would need to know the Eightfold Path inside and out, backwards and forwards, to get to that peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, where all your discontent feelings are eliminated. This is what's going to help you to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. So I'd like to welcome all of you, whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly, and at the same time invite you to join for our meditation session, because we start each class with a meditation session. And then after the meditation, that's where I'll start today's class using the original words of the Buddha to be able to help you understand right view and right intention. Today, you're going to be able to have a breakthrough to understanding what is the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. In 4 simple statements that you'll be able to independently verify, you're going to be able to understand once and for all what's causing all these discontent feelings, so that then you can actually work to eliminate them. So if you'd like to join for meditation, I'm going to start with the chanting. And as you guys probably know, I'm going to be teaching the chanting in about 2 months from now, helping you guys understand how to do the chanting. But for now, if you'd like to follow along, you're more than welcome to. You can see the chants that I'm using by going to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. Click on free books, and then if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll be able to see the daily chanting sheet. That's what's going to ease us into the meditation and ease us out of the meditation. I'm then going to provide you some guidance during the meditation, but then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating together. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and that's where I'll start today's class. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Iti pisu emagawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang sammuno Sakatoro กาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. หังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะเขวาพุทธังมะเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมะเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, I'd like to welcome all of you guys, whether you're joining for the first time or you've been joining regularly. Welcome to our class today. Nice to see everybody here. Today's class is about the Eightfold Path. This is the first part of a three-part series that I'm going to be sharing with you to help you develop your understanding of the teachings of the Buddha. As you know, for this group learning program, we're going to be going chapter by chapter in this book each Sunday. That starts about 5 weeks from now, 4 or 5 weeks from now, where we'll go chapter by chapter. Here at the beginning of this program, what I do is I give you kind of an overview of the path to enlightenment by helping you to dive deeply into the Eightfold Path. And in 3 separate classes, I help you to dive deeply into the Eightfold Path. We're going to be discussing the wisdom section, the moral conduct section, and the mental discipline section. So we're going to be exploring each one of these sections as part of our class over the next 3 Sundays. The wisdom section is where you would really start out in your journey to enlightenment, establishing right view. This is where you're going to be able to understand the problem in your mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward in a way that you can independently verify. Remember, the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief, so you need to get to the point where you do what's called establishing right view, where you understand what is right view and what's causing these discontent feelings, because you wouldn't actually be able to eliminate them if you didn't know what was causing them. So we're going to spend a lot of time today learning right view. It's going to take me probably a good 45 minutes to teach it to you. And I'm going to be pausing at different times along the course and along the class today so that you can ask any and all questions that you like. Whether you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically in Zoom and unmute your microphone and ask any and all questions that you like. And if you're in Facebook or YouTube, and even in Zoom, you can also put your questions in the comment section. So after we discuss right view, which is going to take me a while to teach it to you, then I'm going to help you to understand right intention, which is the second part of the wisdom section of the Eightfold Path, One of the ways to look at the Eightfold Path is that if you had a speaker system where you were trying to get a better and better quality sound out of these speakers, you would kind of tweak these 8 dials in order to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers. This little sneeze keeps coming. You'd be tweaking these 8 individual dials. And the Eightfold Path is essentially that way. If you'd like to get a better and better quality mind, where your mind can be peaceful and joyful no matter what's happening around you, you're going to need to tweak these 8 dials. You're going to need to get to the point where you commit this teachings to memory. And you're not going to be able to do that by learning it just at one time. So that's why I've broken it up into 3 individual sections, so you can take your time in learning it over the next 3 weeks. And then we're actually going to be exploring it when we get to chapter 4 and chapter 5 as well. So I'm going to teach this Eightfold Path 2 different times throughout this group learning program. And then you're going to need to spend some time outside of class learning and growing and developing with as well. If you're brand new to the path to enlightenment and you're brand new to the teachings of the Buddha, this is exactly where you would start. You would start with understanding right view and right intention. That's the very beginning of the path. And for those of you guys that have been studying with me for a little while, this is a really good review for you to be able to refresh your memory on what is the Eightfold Path and what is right view and right intention, and then later diving into the moral conduct section and the mental discipline section. Today's class is all about developing this wisdom that the mind needs as a foundation to build all the other aspects of the Eightfold Path. Next week, when we get into the moral conduct section, it's important to understand that there's certain moral conduct that you're probably engaged in right now that is causing harm, and this harm is coming back to you. It's unwholesome moral conduct, and unless you've studied right speech, right action, and right livelihood, and you're practicing it closely, there's most likely certain things that you're doing that are producing challenges in your day-to-day life. So the Buddha never teaches you rules and commandments. He's not trying to force you to do anything. He's not even trying to convince you to do anything. He's not guilt-shaming or fearing you into anything. He's helping you see these natural laws. And there's certain natural laws that are going to help you to understand this moral conduct and where you can improve your moral conduct. Because as long as you're putting out harmful moral conduct through your speech, actions, or livelihood, this harm is going to come back to you. This is unwholesome results that you're experiencing because of the moral conduct. So next week, we're going to be exploring that to help you awaken to the wisdom of these natural laws to be able to see what would be wise or wholesome moral conduct around your speech, actions, and livelihood. And then we're going to round this out by helping you to understand the mental discipline, because that's what's going to help you to put the moral conduct into practice. You wouldn't be able to learn the moral conduct and just snap your fingers and go out into the world and instantly practice the moral conduct. You're going to need to gradually learn it and gradually bring it into your life little by little. And the mental discipline is going to help you to be able to bring the moral conduct into your day-to-day life. So this isn't about snapping your fingers and instantly doing something. It's about gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And as you're gradually increasing your wisdom and your practice of that wisdom, that's where you're going to see the results. That the mind's going to be slowly becoming more and more peaceful and more joyful in all situations. So over the next 3 Sundays, I'm going to be teaching you the entire Eightfold Path and diving into it in detail. So this week, we're going to be exploring right view and right intention. Next week, it's going to be right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And then finally, it's going to be right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And then that's where I'm going to teach you what's called the 4 stages of enlightenment, because all of practicing the Eightfold Path is going to lead to these 4 stages of enlightenment. And then we're going to move on from there, helping you to be able to understand each chapter by chapter in this book. So as I mentioned, you guys are welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. You can also raise your hand electronically in Zoom, unmute your microphone, and then you'll be able to ask any and all questions that you like that way. So I'm going to use the words of the Buddha to be able to help you understand what he taught on this important topic and all the other things that I teach you as well. It's all based in the original words of the Buddha. It might be strange for you to hear that very few people that consider themselves Buddhist practitioners actually study with the original words of the Buddha. The Buddha's teachings are in 45 large volumes of books that are very thick, about maybe 4 to 6 inches thick. And Most people don't have access to this. And because of that, people aren't understanding what he actually taught, so therefore they aren't experiencing the results. It's when you go back to his original source teachings and understand his true teachings that you can see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. And it's important to have reliable translations because different translators are going to translate in different ways. I am fully confident in the translations that I share with you that this is what's going to lead to an individual's enlightenment. And in order to get to even the first stage of enlightenment, you would need to be studying the true teachings of the Buddha with the guidance of a teacher to be able to help you and guide you along the way. Remember, you're the one who's doing the work where the teacher is helping you like a tour guide. So what the Buddha teaches you is whenever you're learning his teachings is to listen with eager ears, attentively listening, actively listening, so that you can learn and grow and develop on the path where you're not believing anything, but you're examining it and investigating it, you're reflecting on it to verify if it's true, and then you're practicing it. I'm going to show you how to do that. But I just was interested to highlight to you that I'm going to be using his original words so that you can see what did he teach and what he did not teach. And that's very important for your development on the path to enlightenment, that you're always studying with the original words of the Buddha. So here's what he said with right view. He says, "In what, monks, is right view? It is, monks, the wisdom of discontentedness, the wisdom of the cause of discontentedness, the wisdom of the elimination of discontentedness, and the wisdom of the way of practice leading to the elimination of discontentedness. This is called right view." So what he's doing here in right view, the section of the Eightfold Path that starts the whole path, is he's pointing to another teaching. And he's saying that is right view. Because the Eightfold Path is a core central teaching where everything else plugs into it. So here in right view, rather than explain the entire Four Noble Truths, he's just kind of pointing to it and saying the Four Noble Truths is right view. And what I've done here underneath of this line is I've put the top section of the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths continues from here. It's in the book. It's in chapter 4. You can see the entire Four Noble Truths. I'm going to teach it to you today. But underneath of this line, you can at least see the correlation between the Eightfold Path, what is right view, and the Four Noble Truths. So this builds your confidence that you know that indeed what the Buddha is talking about with right view is the Four Noble Truths. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you the Four Noble Truths. And in order to teach you the Four Noble Truths, I need to first teach you the three universal truths. We call these truths because the Buddha knew that they were true. I know that they're true, and other people know that they're true too. But you're going to need to know that they're true. And that's why you're interested in listening with eager ears and not believing anything about the teachings of the Buddha. So I'm going to show you how to do this learning, reflecting, and practicing. Because remember, the Buddha is teaching you the way the world is. He's not teaching you the way the world should be. He's teaching you the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is, you'll navigate the world more peacefully. Because when you're struggling and having difficulties, that's the anger and the stress and the anxiety and all those other feelings. That's just because the mind has certain lack of wisdom about the world around you. The mind is living in a world that it doesn't understand. So you can actually evolve beyond this by learning about these natural laws. So I'm going to teach you this first one of the universal truth of impermanence and helping you to see how to learn, reflect, and practice. And then I'll teach you the others too. These are building blocks to help you understand the Four Noble Truths. You wouldn't understand the Four Noble Truths if you didn't first understand the three universal truths. So what the Buddha is teaching you here with the universal truth of impermanence is that everything in the world around you is constantly changing. Whether it's anything that you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that touches or comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind. These things are constantly changing. These are called conditioned objects. They arise, they change, and then they fade away. These are impermanent. They're temporary. And everything around you that you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, these are all impermanent. And they're called conditioned objects because they arise, change, and fade away. There's also something called unconditioned objects, that they don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. An unconditioned object is something like enlightenment. Once the mind is experiencing enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state. It doesn't arise, it doesn't change, and it doesn't fade away. Or the natural laws themselves, they are unconditioned. They don't arise, change, and fade away. This is why the teachings of the Buddha from 2,500 years ago are just as applicable today as they were 2,500 years ago, because they haven't changed. Now, people's memories and thoughts and the resources that people use to study his teachings, those have all changed because they're impermanent. They arose, change, and they fade away. But the natural laws themselves have not changed. So that's why getting back as close to what the Buddha did as possible is what's going to lead to your enlightenment. So here, it just takes a few minutes to understand intellectually what is the universal truth of impermanence. It's understanding that things are constantly changing in the world. There isn't a fixed state. Everything you see, hear, smell, taste that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, are all things that are constantly changing. Okay, so now that you've kind of spent some time intellectually understanding that, now you move it into reflection because you're not interested in believing this. Because you live in the world, you should be able to reflect on this and independently verify it. Because if you can find something that you can see, hear, smell, taste, or comes in contact with the body, or any ideas that go through the mind, if you can find something that is permanent, now you've disproven this and it's not a universal truth. So here's what I suggest you do, is you start with something that you're familiar with, like this human body. You can ask yourself, is this body permanent, meaning that it's never changed, it's always exactly the same? Or is this human body impermanent, meaning it's constantly changing? So what would you say to that? Is the body permanent or impermanent? Well, what most people come back with is the body's impermanent, right? Ever since conception, where the egg and the sperm came together, this body's been constantly changing. We get taller, we get shorter, our teeth grow in, they fall out, we get wrinkles, pimples, moles, our skin complexion changes, we get gray hair, our hair falls out, we get a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. These are all things that are constant change with the physical body. So you can see that the body is impermanent. Ask yourself about your relationships. Are your relationships permanent or impermanent? If your relationships are permanent, this means that all the people in your life have been in your life your entire life. It's been exactly the same people. If your relationships are impermanent, then that means people have been coming and going in and out of your life throughout your whole life. So what would you say to that? Are your relationships permanent or are they impermanent? Well, of course, they're impermanent, right? People are coming and going in and out of your life. Well, what about your bank account? Is your bank account permanent or impermanent? People usually laugh at this one. They think it's kind of funny, right? So, of course, your bank account is impermanent. It's going up and down and up and down. Some people's goes up, up, up. Some people's goes down, down, down. There's constant change to your bank account. So what about the weather? Is the weather permanent, meaning it's always the same, or is it impermanent, constantly changing? Well, of course, it's constantly changing, right? Now, we could go on and on and on and on, and we could look at any aspect of the world, and we could independently verify that the world around you is impermanent. And if that's what you need to do, I suggest that you do it, because you need to deeply soak this into your mind, that you know with 100% certainty that this is the truth. And this is wisdom, that the world is constantly changing. And remember, this is going to be a building block to help you understand the Four Noble Truths when we get to it. So you can go around the world and you can walk down the sidewalk and you can see a crack in the sidewalk. That's impermanence. If you're looking at a fence and you see the paint is fading, that is impermanence. When we started our class, we had a certain number of people in the class, and now maybe that's grown or maybe that's shrunk. That's impermanence, constantly changing. At the beginning of the class, I was sneezing left and right? Now, not so much, right? This is impermanence, and the sneezing itself is impermanence, right? The body can't be permanently still in terms of not able to, always being able to breathe, that there's going to be a sneeze or a cough occasionally. This is just impermanence. So you're going to need to go around the world to independently verify this for yourself. And whatever amount of time you need to do that, I suggest that you do it, because that's going to help you soak into the mind with 100% confidence that the world around you is always changing and it is impermanent. This second universal truth is called discontentedness. This is where the Buddha explains the unenlightened mind and helping you to understand what you experience in the unenlightened state. In fact, this is the actual problem that the Buddha discovered about the mind. This is where you're understanding conditioned feelings. Now, if you've studied the teachings of the Buddha other places, they might have used the word suffering here instead of discontentedness. I'm going to explain to you what the Buddha taught here, and then I'm going to circle back for you and help you understand why I don't use the word suffering. So in the original teachings of the Buddha, in the Pali language, you're going to see the word dukkha being used. This translates to discontent, discontented, or discontentedness. What the Buddha is explaining is what the unenlightened mind experiences, that it experiences conditioned feelings. That based on some condition, the mind is going to experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, or neither painful nor pleasant. So the pleasant feelings are things like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. These are very pleasant for the mind to experience. And they're based on some condition. Like if it's sunny outside, you will be happy, right? But then there's also painful feelings like sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, etc. These are very painful for the mind to experience. Then there's neither painful nor pleasant. I put boredom and loneliness here, but some people say that's very painful for them. So you could put that in the painful category if you'd like. But shyness is a good example of that. That it's not painful, it's not pleasant, it's neither painful nor pleasant. Or if you were on public transportation and somebody came and sat really close to you that you didn't know, and your body was touching their body, you might say that it's not painful and it's not pleasant. It's neither painful nor pleasant. The mind is dissatisfied or uncomfortable in this situation. So the word discontent, discontented, or discontentedness helps you understand the full spectrum of feelings and emotions that are experienced in the unenlightened mind. And these are all conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, you're going to experience a feeling. So for example, you see that it's sunny outside, you might get so happy or excited. But then when it starts raining, you get angry or sad or frustrated. Or if your bank account balance is up really high, you might get excited or elated or happy. But then when it goes down, you get sad, frustrated, get angry, or some other discontent feeling. That's conditional feeling. As long as you allow the mind to experience the conditioned pleasant feeling, and it's based on some condition, that condition is not permanent. So therefore, your happiness is not permanent. This is why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness up to this point, because your mind is continuing to form inner feelings based on some condition. That if it's sunny outside, you'll be happy. But if it's not sunny, if it's maybe raining or sleeting or hail's falling down or there's a tornado or a hurricane or something like this, you'll be angry or frustrated or scared or any other number of feelings or emotions. So as long as you allow the mind to have conditioned feelings, the mind's going to be going up and down and up and down and up and down. So for an unenlightened being, they'll wake up in the morning, they will see it's sunny outside, they will get so excited maybe, so happy if they have a certain condition in the mind where they really want it to be sunny outside. Maybe they're going to go hiking, they're going to invite all their friends, and they've been really wanting to go on this hiking trail for a long time. But then when they go take a shower, when they come out of the shower and they see it's raining, they'll be sad or frustrated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling, because that happiness that they had was based on the sun, and the sun is not permanent. So when the sun goes away, then your mind is going to move to a painful feeling. So an enlightened being doesn't experience this. They are beyond the conditionality of all these feelings. Their mind is permanently peaceful, permanently joyful, permanently happy. They're experiencing unconditioned happiness. But it's not the same happiness that you're used to. Right now, you're used to maybe like happy. Oh, I'm so happy. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy. I can't control my mind. Oh, I'm so happy. That's not what we're talking about with the enlightened mental state. The enlightened mental state, where it's unconditioned happiness and joy is being experienced, is there's no condition that needs to be met in order for it to experience this. An enlightened being, when they wake up in the morning, they're already happy. And now they see it's sunny outside. Sweet, I'm going to go hiking, going to call my friends. It's going to be a great time. I've been interested in going on this trail for a long time. And now when they take a shower and they come out and they see it's raining, it's like, all right, well, I guess I'm not going hiking. That means maybe I'll go to the mall. Maybe I'll stay home and read a book. Maybe I'll invite my friends over for dinner. I'll cook them dinner, right? So the mind is going to maintain its peace and joy because it hasn't based its happiness on any condition. So in the unenlightened state, it's like this condition has to be met and this condition has to be met, this condition has to be met and this condition has to be met, then I will be happy, right? If my mom and dad does this, if my boss does this, if the weather is this, if my bank account is this, then I will be happy, right? But that kind of shrinks your happiness, because the more of those conditions that you have, the less likely they're all going to be true, and the amount of happiness that you can have becomes less and less and less and less. So what you're working to do is be able to get to the point where your mind is no longer experiencing conditioned feelings, but instead it has unconditioned mental qualities, where it's just always peaceful and it's always joyful. The mind has been trained to no longer form its inner feelings based on these experiences that you're having in day-to-day life. And this comes through the training of the mind. Ultimately, an individual needs to be able to see the pleasant feelings, these conditioned pleasant feelings, as just as much a part of the problem as the painful ones, the conditionality of them. Because they're temporary, they're ultimately dissatisfying. Because if you can only be happy when your bank account balance is here, then that means when it's anywhere else, then that means that your mind's not happy. And even if you're happy when your bank account balance is here, that happiness is going to wear off. And then you're going to want more and more and more and more. The mind just keeps going and going and going. So this is called discontentedness, where the mind is shaken up. It's unsteady, it's uncalm. The mind is discontent, it's discontented, or experiencing discontentedness. And this is the problem that the Buddha discovered about the mind, that it's forming its feelings based on some condition. And we're going to talk when we get to the Four Noble Truths of why this is and how to solve it. But let me first circle back and help you to understand how to independently verify this, okay? So you know that your mind is currently unenlightened, and you can ask yourself, is this what you experience? Do you experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant? Because if this is a universal truth and it's explaining what you're experiencing in the unenlightened state, then you should be able to take any feeling that you've experienced and you should be able to plug it into here and be able to see that it's describing that. And if you think that it's not and you have a question, when we get to our question period, just let me know and I will help you to be able to understand. So as I mentioned, some people refer to this as suffering. I don't use that word related to this because it explains the painful feelings really well, but it doesn't explain the pleasant feelings and the neither painful nor pleasant feelings. If your boss came in and gave you a raise and you got so excited and elated about that, you probably wouldn't say you were suffering. Or if your mom calls you up and says, hey, I'm going to come visit you this weekend. I heard you got a new house and I'd like to cook that favorite dish, that food that you always like. Let's cook that dish together. And now you get so excited because mom's coming to visit. You probably wouldn't say you were suffering in that situation. And the same thing's true about that person that you don't know who comes and sits next to you on the public transportation and your body's touching their body. You probably wouldn't say you were suffering in that situation. So the word suffering describes these painful feelings really well, which is about 33% of what the Buddha was teaching on this important topic. And that means you'd be missing about 66% of his teachings. And if you're missing 66% of a teacher's teachings, how could you ever get to the goal of what it is that he's teaching you? So I encourage you to use the word discontent, discontented, or discontentedness because it explains the full spectrum of feelings and emotions that are experienced in the unenlightened state. Then there's the universal truth of non-self. I'm going to explain this one to you, but first I'd like to explain to you the problem that this is solving, because the universal truth of non-self is actually a solution or a remedy to one of the problems that the Buddha discovered in the mind. Now, this is the overall problem, discontentedness. That's the overall problem that the Buddha discovered. But there's these 10 individual pollutions that are causing this particular problem to occur. These 10 individual pollutions are referred to as the 10 fetters. And I'm going to teach you guys those in about 4 weeks from now. We have a class where I'm going to teach you the 10 fetters and the 4 stages of enlightenment. These 10 fetters are referred to as pollutions or taints or defilements. The Buddha referred to them as fetters, and he also referred to them as taints and defilements and pollutions as well. But he referred to them as the fetters because during his lifetime, if you were a criminal and they were trying to keep you confined in a certain area, they would attach a fetter to your ankle. This is a shackle and a chain and a ball. And they would essentially turn you out in a field and you would just be confined to that particular area. So this shackle, chain, and ball is a fetter. And when the Buddha discovered these pollutions, he referred to them as a fetter because these fetters are keeping your mind confined. It's keeping it bogged down. It's keeping it bound up where it keeps experiencing anger and sadness and frustration over and over and over again. So it's when you eliminate the 10 fetters that the mind is free. It's liberated. It's no longer experiencing any of these discontent feelings. So the goal on this path is to purify the mind of these 10 fetters. So the very first fetter is called personal existence view. And the universal truth of non-self is the solution for it. What the personal existence view is where the mind is confused, it has misunderstanding, it has a lack of wisdom, it has misperceptions, that it thinks that this body is you or this mind is you. It clings to the self-image and it clings to the self-identity, holding on to this and wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And for example, let me give you some examples so you can understand what I'm sharing here, that you've probably experienced these kinds of things so you can confirm that you have personal existence view in your mind. If you've ever been out in a social situation and you spilled something on your clothing and you were embarrassed, that's because of personal existence view. Your mind was clinging to this self-image, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way, and you could only be happy when you were being perceived that way. And now when you've got this food over your clothing, your mind didn't like that, and now it was embarrassed, right? Or say you get a pimple or a mole or a wrinkle or a gray hair, or you start losing your hair, and you look in the mirror and you're all shaken up by that. That's because the mind's clinging to this physical body, to this self-image, thinking that this is who you are. And now it's not happy, it's not content, it's not peaceful, it's not joyful, because it's not being perceived the way that it wants to be perceived, right? Or maybe you were like me when I was a child. When I was on my way to school, I would get out the gel and the mousse and rub it all in my hands and rub it through my hair and try to get every little hair in exactly the right spot. And sometimes I would do this so much that I would miss the school bus, that I didn't feel comfortable going outside until I had every little hair in exactly the right spot, right? This is because of personal existence view that the mind is doing this. The mind is clinging to this self-image, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And it can only feel comfortable if it's getting what it wants. And if it's not getting what it wants, it doesn't feel comfortable. So this is the self-image part of this. But then there's the self-identity. This personal existence view is also where the mind is clinging to a certain identity, like your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, maybe your job or occupation, or maybe your nationality or something like this. There's any number of things that your mind can cling to, like I am American, or I am Canadian, or I am Indian, or I am a Brit, or I am an Aussie, or I am Chinese. Any of this I am around your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation, any number of things the mind can cling to and think that this is who you are as a person. So if you've ever been involved in a relationship where you considered yourself, I am a boyfriend, I am a girlfriend, or I am a husband, or I am a wife, now with that identity in your mind, as long as you guys were together, your mind was somewhat comfortable. But then when you guys broke up, your mind didn't identify with I am single. And now you might have wanted to hurry up and get right back into another relationship again. The mind thought that was the way to solve the problem because it was uncomfortable with this I am single, because the mind is identifying with I am a boyfriend, or I am a girlfriend, or I'm a husband, or I'm a wife. Or say you have this nationality of I am American, or I am Indian, or I am Canadian, or I am Chinese, or any of these other I ams around your nationality. Well, if you're in a restaurant and 2 tables over, they're speaking very fondly about your nationality, you'll get potentially pleasant feelings where you're so happy and excited. But now 2 tables over, they're talking in negative and degrading and disparaging ways about your nationality. Now you might be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. Or say you worked for a certain job, like I am a police officer. And now for 10, 15 years, your mind is holding on to that identity of I am a police officer. And now maybe you get fired, maybe you retire, maybe you get injured and you can't do that work anymore. And now maybe you're a taxi driver and your mind doesn't identify with I am a taxi driver. The mind identifies with I am a police officer. And now it really struggles during this period of time because its identity is not intact. And that identity is not permanent. So as long as you cling to anything in terms of the self-image or the self-identity, thinking that this is who you are, when everything starts changing, your mind will be shaken up by that. So much so that some people get to the point where they are maybe in their home country and they say, I don't even know who I am anymore. I need to go find myself. I need to find my true self. And some people come to places like here in Thailand in search of themselves. They're looking for their true self. But they're never going to find themselves here in Thailand because it doesn't actually exist. That's what the universal truth of non-self is explaining, that there is no self. Someone might come here to Thailand and get new hobbies, new activities, new friends, maybe even a new job. And then they might even go home and they're like, I found myself. Oh, I feel so much better. I found myself, right? But now, 5 years later, when all that stuff changes, they're right back into the same problem because they were clinging to all this stuff, thinking that it was who they were as a person. And now when impermanence happened, they feel lost and confused in the world. They feel like not whole. Like if you were thinking, I am a police officer, and now you're not doing that job anymore, you might not feel whole, or you retire, right, from any particular job. There was a student one time who called me up right after COVID, and we had a personal guidance session, and we were talking, and they were having a challenge because they told me that they are a good tipper. They said, I am a good tipper, and every time I go to these stores that I used to always go to before COVID, I would just pay cash. Now it's contactless payment, and now when I go to pay, they turn around a computer system and I need to put in how much I'm going to pay. And typically it's saying, tip 18%, 25%, 30%, whatever it is. And he's like, I am a great tipper, and I'm not tipping in these situations because I just ordered a coffee and I was only there for 30 seconds. I placed my order. Why should I have to tip them 25% just for placing an order for a coffee? And I'm so conflicted here because I am a great tipper. And his mind was discontent and uncomfortable, and he didn't understand why. And I needed to help him see that this was his personal existence view. His mind was confused. It was lacking understanding. It had this misperception. It was clinging to this identity of I am a great tipper. And when that person was tipping, they felt great. They felt comfortable. But in situations where they were not tipping, they felt uncomfortable in those situations. So this is what personal existence view is. And this is what the universal truth of non-self is get to the point where your mind has realized non-self, where it no longer is clinging to this body or this mind as who you are, or it's not clinging to this self-image or this self-identity. Now, some people understand this when I first start talking about it, but other times people need a lot more time to learn this and understand it. And if that's the category that you're in, no worries. This is just an introduction for you, that when we get to chapter 16 of this particular program, that entire chapter is devoted to dissolving the ego, which personal existence view is part of the ego. I'm going to be describing it in much more detail with even more examples, and I'm going to give you the solutions of how to actually fix it. But it doesn't make sense to talk about those things until a student understands the Eightfold Path. So here, I'm just introducing it to you to help you understand it. Now, that was the intellectual learning and investigation of it. But now let's move it into reflection, because you need to independently verify that this is true, because you're not interested in believing anything about these teachings. So here's how you do that. Think about yourself when you were a child, when you were a teenager, early adulthood, and then now. Think about your character and your personality, who you were as a person, yourself. Has it been exactly the same through all those 4 stages of your life? Or has your character and personality and the way that you think about yourself been constantly changing? So most people say it's been constantly changing. I've never heard anybody, in fact, that says that it's the same all the way through all those years. Here's another way. If your arm was amputated and you only have one hand and one arm, are you less of a person? Right? So there's less body, meaning your arm has been amputated, and now you have one hand and one arm. Are you less of a person? And most people say, no, I'm not less of a person. So there you can see intellectually that you understand this body is not you, because otherwise you would have answered that question differently. You would have said, yes, I'm less of a person because there's less body, so therefore there's less of a person here. But there's very rarely situations where people will answer it that way. They understand intellectually that this body isn't them, But the confusion of personal existence view, that misunderstanding and misperception that the mind has, that lack of wisdom, is that in the heat of the moment, when someone says, wow, you look so beautiful in those clothes, you look so handsome, that really brings out the colors of your eyes. You get maybe these pleasant feelings like, wow, they're talking about me. But then when someone says something degrading or disparaging, like, where'd you get that haircut? Oh my goodness, right? Now you might be thinking like, where you're frustrated or you're agitated or annoyed because your mind's confused in that moment. Where here, intellectually, you can understand that this body is not you, perhaps, but then in the heat of the moment, the mind gets this confusion because of the personal existence view. And now here's a third way to independently verify this. And then I'm going to open up to questions that you guys might have about any of these universal truths before we move in to the Four Noble Truths. Is point to yourself. Where are you? Can you point to yourself? So a lot of times people will point here to the chest, or they'll point to the head, right? If you're pointing to the chest, let's look at what you're pointing to. What are you literally pointing to? You're pointing to a shirt, most likely, right? Some of you guys have your cameras off. Maybe there is no shirt, right? But you're pointing, let's just say, to a shirt, right? So if you're pointing to a shirt and that's what you're saying, I am this, ask yourself, is that who you are, this shirt? Right? If we took off this shirt and we held it up, is that you? Is that who you are? No, that's not you, right? Okay, so let's throw that away. Where are you? Someone might point again, right? So what are we pointing to? We're pointing to skin, right? So ask yourself, is that who you are? That skin you've got, is that you? If we ripped off the skin and held it up, is that you? The answer is no, that's not you, right? Okay, so let's throw that away. Where are you? Well, someone might point again, right? Well, now you're pointing at bones, muscle tissue, organs, and fluid. None of those little bits and pieces and parts are you. But the mind gets confused in the heat of the moment, and it clings to all of this, thinking that this is who you are. And that's one of the reasons why the mind is experiencing discontentedness, right? So you're going to need to get to the point where you realize non-self. So for example, I can understand and I can realize that this body was born on a land that is referred to as America, but the mind doesn't have to adopt the identity of I am American. Because that dirt, that earth that this body was born on, it wasn't always America. That's just a label. And it's not going to always be known as America. Someday it can change, right? Because of impermanence. So if I allow my mind to adopt that identity of I am American, now when someone says something positive, then you get excited and happy because they're talking about me. But when they say something negative, you get angry or frustrated, right? But if you've realized non-self, when somebody says something degrading or disparaging about anything that your mind could potentially be holding on to, like if they were degrading Americans, my mind's thinking, they're not talking about me because that's not me. That's not who I am. I haven't adopted that identity any longer in the mind. So there's certain labels that your mind might have. In fact, we have national anthems, we have sports teams, we have flags. Every country pretty much has one of these. And now we cheer for these sports teams and we take on this national identity. And this has been ingrained in the mind for so long. So oftentimes talking about it can be kind of confusing for people. They're like, hold on, what are you talking about? That this isn't me, right? So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions about the three universal truths. Remember, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. I see a question here from Julie. She says, Teacher David, so the body is not me. How about my mind? This thing stays even after I die. This is actually not true. The body is not you and the mind is not you. The body is impermanent and the mind is impermanent too. It's not a permanent thing. So the mind is going to ultimately dissolve. There are certain contents that are in this mind that when you die, if the mind's not enlightened, there are certain contents like craving and residual memories. Those will go on, but it's in a new mind. It's not the same exact mind. Okay, let me see if we have any questions anywhere else. Okay, I don't see any questions on YouTube or Facebook. Okay, so let's move on to one more building block. And then I'm going to help you to understand the Four Noble Truths, to have this breakthrough, to understanding once and for all what's causing these feelings, so that then you can actually eliminate them. There's something you need to understand, which is called craving, desire, attachment. This is a mental longing for something with a strong eagerness. The mind pulling in the direction of the objects of its affection. It's wants, expectations, holding, grasping, clinging. It's like the mind thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it. It's like an unquenchable thirst. The mind thinks that if I can just get this thing, everything will be perfect in my life. So the mind chases and chases and chases. If you've ever been in the mall and you saw a brand new pair of shoes or a new phone or a video game or a piece of jewelry or article of clothing or something like that, and you're just like, oh, I just got to have that. I want that so badly. That's the mind's craving, desire, attachment. Not the object itself, but the mind longing and yearning for the object. So now the mind's longing, yearning, and I really want those brand new shoes. And now you go into the store and they have your size and you can purchase your size and you get so happy and so excited. But then if you go inside and they don't have your shoes, you get agitated or frustrated or annoyed, right? Because the mind's not getting what it wants. So there's these cravings, desires, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the mind pulling towards things. It's not the object itself, it's internally in the mind, the way it's pulling towards this thing. It's like the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it and chases it. The mind's like, oh, I know what I need to feel better. More money. Let me chase that for a while. Oh, I know what I need, a new boyfriend, a new girlfriend. Let me chase one of those for a while. Oh, I know what I need, a bigger car. Let me chase that. Oh, a bigger house, a new job, new clothes, new shoes. Let me chase these things. And the mind just keeps chasing and chasing and chasing. It's almost like an animal chasing after a prey, right? Like the dog chasing the rabbit, or the fox chasing the squirrel, right? It's the same thing. The mind is just chasing and chasing and chasing. So you need to be able to see this particular aspect of your mind, where the mind's longing, yearning for things. We call this a craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. And now that we have all these building blocks on board, I can help you to understand the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth is explaining the problem. The second one is explaining the cause of the problem. The third one is describing the elimination. And the fourth one is describing the complete solution of how to solve the problem. Okay, so now I'm going to walk you through this in a way that you can independently verify it. The first noble truth is explaining the problem that you're experiencing. Everyone that is unenlightened will experience discontentedness, those conditioned feelings, that the mind is happy and excited for a period of time, but then it's angry and sad and frustrated, but then it's elated and thrilled, but then it's bored and lonely, then it's shy, then it's embarrassed, then it's disappointed, then it's happy and excited, and then it's sad and frustrated, it's stressed and having anxiety, feeling guilt and shame and fear and things like this. The mind's bouncing around, going up and down and up and down. And sure, you'll have periods of time in between where the mind's kind of peaceful or what have you, but it's only a matter of time before something gets triggered and now the mind is experiencing one of these discontent feelings. So the conditioned feelings of discontentedness is the problem that the mind is experiencing, that it can't be permanently steady and stable and happy. It has to go up and down because the mind isn't well trained. So now when you understand the problem, that discontentedness is a problem, because when your mind's shaken up, you can't make wise decisions and experience wholesome results in your life. Now you move on to the second noble truth, that this explains the cause. Discontentedness is caused by our own cravings, desires, attachments, because the mind wants everything to be permanent when everything in the world is impermanent. Okay, so I'm going to say that a few times and I'm going to give you some examples. Discontentedness, the pleasant feelings, the painful feelings, the neither painful nor pleasant, is caused by the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection, because the mind wants things to be permanent, but yet everything is impermanent. So essentially, if the mind gets what it wants, what it expects, it gets pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, and others. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, right? So now let me give you some examples. Think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you got, where you were so excited and so happy that they came into your life. They were showing you affection. You guys were going out to the movies, you're going to dinner, you're going to the park, you were taking nice walks in the park, you were having conversations, You maybe had intimate contact where you're having sex and things like this. And there was all this pleasure that the mind was experiencing based on the condition of having this new person in your life. But then over time, there was more and more frustration and agitation and anger, and you guys broke up. And then when you guys broke up, the mind might have been angry or frustrated. You might have been lonely or bored. You might have been missing this person. It wasn't the love that was causing that. What was causing it was the mind was craving permanence, wanting this person to be permanent in your life. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. I'm going to help you to understand true love when we get to chapter 15, because this is an important part of awakening to enlightenment. But this genuine interest and this care and concern doesn't cause painful feelings. But with the lack of wisdom, unenlightened beings will think that it does. What's causing those painful feelings when you guys broke up is the mind was craving permanence. As long as you were getting what you wanted, which was be in this relationship with this person, your mind was somewhat happy. But then when you guys broke up, you weren't getting what you wanted, which was this person in your life permanently. The mind was craving permanence. It didn't understand the wisdom of the universal truth of impermanence, that things are constantly changing. Even if you guys were together for the rest of your life, more likely than not, one of you would have died first because you guys are impermanent. Because you were born, you had to die. Every single one of us have to die. The same thing occurs with grandma and grandpa. When grandma and grandpa die, oftentimes people are discontent, or maybe mom or dad or brothers or sisters or other people close to you have died, and you grieved and you were sorrowful. It wasn't your love that was causing that. That was the mind craving permanence and wanting this person to be permanent in your life, when in reality they're not permanent. Because they were born, they had to die, right? This is the only reason why they died, is because they were born. They were impermanent. But your mind holding on, it was craving permanence. If grandma and grandpa are alive, hey, happy with that. I agree with that. But then when they die and you experience this impermanence, this change, then the mind doesn't like that. Right? Here's another one that doesn't involve relationships. Let's just say that you bought a brand new car, and this is a car that you've been saving up for a really long time. And you drive this car off the parking lot, you park it at a store, and you go inside, and then you come out and there's a scratch on your car. You might be upset, you might be frustrated or angry. Well, it's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car. What's causing the frustration and agitation is that the mind's craving permanence. It's wanting this car to look permanently beautiful, when it's not possible for it to be permanently beautiful. Now, when we walk through parking lots, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. So we're not talking about what's wise or unwise here, because obviously we're not interested in scratching people's car. But the fact is that this car is going to get a scratch. It's only a matter of time. The paint's going to fade, the tires are going to need to be changed, the upholstery could get ripped and torn. This car is impermanent. And as long as you're craving permanence, then when you experience this impermanence, your mind doesn't like that, because it doesn't understand the world that it lives in, that everything around you is constantly changing. So another way to say this is, yes, the mind is craving permanence and it does not like impermanence, right? So another way to say the mind craves permanence is to say that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. Look at the situations in your life when you've experienced change. Maybe you were changing relationships, you were changing jobs, you were changing living locations. These were probably some of the most challenging times in your entire life, even if you were the one making the decisions for those changes to occur, right? Because you were making those decisions. And now when all these things were changing, now the mind really struggled in these situations. Maybe your health, where you were once healthy and then you became unhealthy. This could have been a very challenging time in your life, right? Because the mind craves this permanent health, for example, when in reality, this body is impermanent. It's not going to be permanently healthy. So this second noble truth is explaining to you that the problem is inside your own mind, that the mind's craving, desiring, attached, that when it gets what it wants, it gets happy. And when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets those painful feelings. So there's these pleasant and painful and neither painful nor pleasant feelings that are occurring. And when those painful feelings are coming up, the mind will typically attribute this to something external. You will think that it's other people who are causing you to be angry or frustrated or agitated or annoyed. And what the mind will typically do with its lack of wisdom of this second noble truth is it will tend to push people away, or it'll push the situation away. This is called aversion. So you might have pushed your friends or family members away out of your life. People might have done this to you too, right? This is the mind thinking that the problem is external. And if I push this person or this situation away, that will solve my problem. But you can see that that didn't solve the problem, because you still get angry, you still get annoyed, you still get frustrated. If that person was the actual cause of your problem, when you push them away, you wouldn't be experiencing discontentedness any longer, because you figured out what is the cause of your problem. And now when you push them away, you'd be peaceful for the rest of your life. But you can see that that's not the case. Or the second thing that your mind might do when you misunderstand the world and you don't have the wisdom of the second noble truth is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another human being, trying to fear them into doing things your way. Because the mind thinks, if I can just get my cravings fulfilled, then everything will be perfect. So the mind's like, "Arr," speaking harsh and aggressive and hostile and bitter, because the mind's trying to fear this other person to do things your way. But in this situation, people choose to leave out of your life, and you can't reside harmoniously with all beings. Or the third thing that you will do when you don't understand this second noble truth is you will tend to put your expectations on people, and you'll try to control them and force them to do things your way. Because once again, the mind's trying to get its cravings fulfilled. So as long as your mind doesn't understand that it's craving, desire, attachment within your own mind that's causing these feelings, you'll continue to push people away. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile to people, and you'll put your expectations on people, and you'll experience broken relationships over and over and over and over and over again. And that's no fun, right? So you need to be able to independently verify this, because you can't believe me. This is the intellectual learning that I've been sharing with you. So now let's move it into reflection. Okay, so take a recent situation where you've been angry or frustrated or agitated or some other discontent feeling. It could have been this morning, it could have been yesterday, it could have been last week. Now, at that time, you might have been trying to blame somebody else for your feelings, because that's what the mind does. I'm sure you've been in arguments where you've been adamantly trying to convince people that what they are doing is causing you to be angry, and they have to change what they're doing, or else you're going to keep getting angry. But that's in the past. It's not other people that's causing this. Look at this situation with these fresh eyes. What was it that the mind was longing, yearning for? There was something you wanted, you were craving. And if you would have got what you wanted, you would have been happy or excited. But because you didn't get what you wanted, the mind was angry or frustrated or sad or some other discontent feeling. You need to be able to see this for yourself. And if you're having trouble seeing it, let me know in a question, and I will help you to be able to see it. Because I've had students share with me before that they just don't see it. Right? I had a student one time say to me that they went to work and their house looked beautiful. It looked wonderful. And when they came home, their wife had a craft project all over the house. And they instantly got frustrated as soon as they walked in the house. And they said, how did my mind cause this frustration? I wasn't even there at the house. It was my wife who messed up the house. Didn't she cause me to be frustrated? And the answer is no. This person went to work with an expectation in their mind. They had a craving for their house to look a certain way permanently. And when they came home, they experienced impermanence, meaning everything had changed. And their mind didn't like that. Their mind was craving permanence. And now they caused their own mind to be frustrated or agitated or annoyed, right? So this condition of the house, the way it looked, is not permanent. But also the craft project being all over the house, that's not permanent either. Wife is going to eventually put it away, or maybe you'll even help her to put it away, right? So as long as the mind's craving, wanting, expecting this permanence in multiple situations throughout your day, you can experience frustration, agitation, or annoyance. So you need to be able to independently verify and see this for yourself. Then there's the third noble truth, because that's where you're starting to understand the elimination of discontentedness is possible by eliminating craving, desires, attachments. Because if craving, desire, attachment is the cause, which you understand in the second noble truth, then all you need to do is eliminate the cause. If you eliminate the cause, then you will eliminate the effect, right? So if craving, desire, attachment is causing discontentedness, well, get rid of your craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, and now the mind will eliminate its discontentedness. So the third noble truth is helping you to see that you can eliminate your discontentedness by eliminating the holding on and the craving and the desire. And then the fourth noble truth is explaining to you that the path to eliminating discontentedness is the Eightfold Path. That's the complete perfect plan that's going to help you to be able to eliminate this longing, yearning, this craving, this desire, this wanting things to be permanent, wanting things to always be your way. Because what the unenlightened mind will tend to do is it'll try to go out into the world and teach everybody to do things your way, right? The mind's ego thinks my way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way. And now let me go out into the world and teach my family, my friends, my coworkers, my neighbors how to do things my way. And when they do things my way, I'm happy. And when they don't do things my way, the mind's angry or frustrated. But you need to understand that the world is impermanent and there's never going to be a time where everybody does things your way. There's 8 billion people in the world. You can't train 8 billion people to do things your way. So this better way of life that the Buddha taught is to train your mind to be understanding of the universal truth of impermanence. For your mind to understand that it's craving, desire, attachment that is causing these discontent feelings. And through eliminating those, that's what's going to eliminate your discontentedness. So this craving, desire, attachment is the longing, yearning, the chasing after things. If you weren't doing that, the unenlightened mind is typically all the way over here on the other side, where you're dull and lethargic, you're lazy and complacent. That's not what the Buddha is teaching you. Those are the two opposite sides of the extremes. He's teaching you this middle way where you can have ambition, motivation, enthusiasm, encouragement to work towards your goals, objectives, and interests. As long as you're chasing after things and you get happy when you get it and you get sad or frustrated when you don't get it, that's not actually a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment masquerading as a goal. A true goal, you can work towards it. And whether you obtain that thing or not, you can maintain your happiness. You can maintain your joy. That if you're 80% of your way to a goal, you can look at it and say, I'm 80% of the way there. I can add more resources, and then that'll maybe help me get to my goal. Or I could extend my timeline. That will help me to get my goal. Or, you know what? 80% is just fine. This fulfills everything I need. I don't need to go any further. 80% is perfect. And then you can maintain your happiness and your joy. But if you can only be happy when you get what you want, that's not a goal. That's not an objective. And that might be how you're being motivated now as you're chasing after your cravings, desires, attachments. But then those burn out. That's why you'll chase something for a period of time, be almost to it, maybe, and then it burns out and you're like, I don't even want that thing anymore. It's almost like an animal chasing a squirrel, and then when it catches it and kills it, it kind of gets bored with it, right? Because it was the chase that was so fun for it, right? So if you've been chasing things and then that craving burns out, you're no longer going to be motivated and have enthusiasm because you're basing it in your craving, and that is impermanent. But when you come to the middle way, when you're making wise decisions towards your goals, objectives, or interests, this is long-term. This is sustainable. This is something you can do for the rest of your life because you're just gradually making your way towards a goal, objective, or interest with ambition and enthusiasm, but not based in craving, desire, attachment. So this right view is the foundation of the Eightfold Path, where right view is understanding that it's your own mind that's causing these discontent feelings, the craving, the desire, the attachment, the longing, the yearning. Wrong view would be to be blaming other people for the feelings that you're experiencing. And I'm sure we've all been there. Like I mentioned, we've probably been in arguments where we're adamantly trying to convince people that what they were doing was causing us to be angry or frustrated or annoyed, and they needed to stop doing that, or else you were going to continue to get angry. But again, you can't teach 8 billion people to do things your way. So right view is helping you to be able to see what is truly causing these feelings so that then you can eliminate them. If it was other people that was causing these feelings, you'd never be able to eliminate them. But because your own mind is causing them, you can actually eliminate them. So this is very empowering for you. So what I suggest you do to practice right view from this point forward is always look inward. Whenever your mind's angry or frustrated or any other discontent feeling embarrassed, guilty or shameful or stress or anxiety, any of these kinds of things, instead of looking external to blame the people around you or blame external circumstances, look inward. Look inward at the mind. Be introspective. What is it that you're longing, yearning for? What are you craving? What is the mind wanting and expecting to be permanent? Because that's what's going to help you to uncover what is actually causing those discontent feelings. And when you can train your mind to eliminate it through the entire Eightfold Path, eliminating those cravings, desires, attachments, more and more you'll get to peace and joy. So I'm going to pause here and see what questions you guys might have about the Four Noble Truths. You're welcome to put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So it looks like we have a question coming in here from Adela. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Isn't the self what gives a person their personality, their lived experiences, background, culture, etc., something that shapes us into who we are? What does an identity mean in Buddhism, or is there even one now? Okay, so the self is not what's giving you your personality and your character. What we're talking about here with the personal existence view, that is the mind clinging to a image or an identity in your mind, thinking that this is who you are. So for someone who's realized non-self, they still have a personality, they still have a character. Two enlightened beings aren't going to be exactly the same in terms of their character and personality. They're going to tell different jokes, they're going to have different thoughts and ideas. It's just that their mind is the same in terms of their mind is completely peaceful and joyful. So it's not the personal existence view that determines your personality. What personal existence view is doing is it's causing your mind to be upset and angry and frustrated because the mind's craving for this body to be permanent and this self-image to be permanent and be perceived by others in a certain way. And it's craving for the self-identity to be intact. And now when all that stuff starts changing, the mind is discontent in that situation. Deepak has a question here. Is trying to pursue or chase growth and development in one's mind cause craving that cause discontentedness? It can if someone's craving, desiring, attached to it, but it doesn't have to. If an individual is longing, yearning, and chasing enlightenment, they'll never actually get it. You actually need to get to the point where you restrain the mind and you gradually pursue enlightenment as a goal, objective, or interest. And understand that it's going to be gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So right now, if somebody's mind was craving inner growth and development, if they're craving this peaceful and joyful mind of enlightenment, what I would share with them is that the best way to eliminate this craving is instead of thinking about it as if you need to attain enlightenment, because oftentimes things that you don't have, the mind will long and yearn for it and crave it because it doesn't have it. Instead, you can think of it as if the mind is already enlightened, that you have these pollutions in your mind and you just got to get those pollutions out of the mind so that brightness and radiance, those qualities of the enlightened mind, can shine through. The way you might think about this is if you have the sun and you have clouds in front of the sun and you gradually peel away these clouds, the rays of the sun are going to start to shine through. And this is what you're going to experience as your mind's making its way to enlightenment, is as you're slowly decreasing the pollutions and peeling that away, the qualities of enlightenment are going to start peering through for a few minutes, a few days, a few hours, a few weeks. But then because your mind still has pollution, there's going to be some discontentedness that comes in. So instead of thinking of it as you need to attain enlightenment, think about it as your mind is already enlightened and you just got to get these pollutions out of the way so you can experience the qualities of the natural mind, which is the enlightened mental state. Okay, I don't see any other questions here. Let me see. Okay, here's a question coming in on YouTube. If you are hungry, shouldn't you act to resolve that situation? So if the body needs food, yeah, you're going to need to get food in order to take care of this. But being grumpy and irritable about that is the mind's craving, desire, attachment. Oftentimes people think it's biological, but it's not biological. What it is the mind's craving permanent comfort of the body. And now when you experience those hunger pains, the mind wants this permanent comfort of the body. It's uncomfortable with these hunger pains. The mind's not getting what it wants, that it wants this body to be permanently comfortable. And now it experiences this discontentedness, which is the grumpiness, the irritability. And then it might come through in your intentions, your speech, and your actions in the way that you interact with other people. So yes, you need to act upon getting food, but the craving that we're talking about here isn't that the body needs food. The craving, desire, attachment is how the mind is longing, yearning for the food, wanting a particular type of food. Where, like, let's just say you went to a restaurant and there they have this wonderful chocolate cake, and you eat this chocolate cake every time you go to this restaurant, and you get so happy and excited when they have this chocolate cake. Well, now when you show up one day and they don't have your chocolate cake, because this chocolate cake is impermanent, now you'll be frustrated, you'll be agitated or annoyed because your mind's craving that permanence of the chocolate cake. So yes, the body needs food, and it's important to pursue that, but you would like to be able to make wise decisions towards obtaining food rather than being grumpy and irritable and nasty and resentful to the people around you just because the body needs food. So it's the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning that is causing that. And you can eliminate that by understanding, hey, sometimes this body is going to be uncomfortable, and that's okay. That now, when you notice that there's this physical pain starting to come into the body because it needs food, let me start making my way towards food. And now you gradually make your way towards that with a completely stable and steady and peaceful mind. Looks like Joe has a question. Go ahead, Joe.
Hi, David. Adela, my partner, has joined me today, and she had a question she'd like to ask. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, David. My question is about a craving, specifically going back to your example of, a clean house, maybe, and you're craving for a clean house. If I clean the house and let's say my children, make a mess, how do I use your teachings to kind of control my reaction and to recognize that that's my craving? And, instead of maybe getting upset or angry, how do I go to a place of calmness?
Sure. The first part is understanding right view, understanding that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, because acting out towards your children or being bitter and harsh and hostile isn't going to actually solve the problem, because the problem is inside one's own mind. So the first step is understanding right view. And then you're going to need to understand right intention, which is what I'm going to explain to you next. Then you're going to need to know the moral conduct, which is next Sunday. And then you're going to need to know the mental discipline. All of this together is going to give you the complete solution. And I'm breaking it down over 3 classes like this so that you guys can slowly digest it. So you're not going to have the complete answer at the end of today's class. And for me to go into it would take too long because it takes me literally 3 classes, about 2.5 hours total to teach it. So if you're going to attend over the next couple of Sundays, you're going to get the answer to your question. You just need to be patient to be able to learn it each step by step.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, it looks like Julie has a question in Zoom. She says, so I can understand that all the discontentment and problems in your life actually caused by yourself. Is that right? Yes, absolutely. Every feeling and emotion that you've ever had your entire life is all being caused by your own mind. And when you look back over your life and you see the difficulties and struggles and even maybe the broken relationships that you've had, this can be pretty impactful to one's own mind to realize, oh my goodness, this was my own mind doing this all along. Now, these other people could have surely been doing something unwise, right? But that's not what's causing the discontentedness. So for example, say we were in a relationship and our partner was going outside the relationship and having sex with someone else. Now that is unwise for that person to do. But if you got discontent, it wasn't being caused by them. This was your mind craving permanence. Now it could be wise to end that relationship and move on, but nonetheless, it wasn't that other person that was causing the mind to be discontent. It was the mind's craving and holding on to this person, being attached to them. You're attaching your feelings to what they're choosing to do or what they're choosing not to do. Okay, I see there on YouTube that you said thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so I don't see any other questions anywhere. You're welcome, Deepak. Nice to help you as well. Let me move on to right intention. Now, this one won't take me very long to teach. It's very straightforward. Right view takes a good amount of time because it's so deep and detailed, and you really need to independently verify it. So here's right intention. This is the second factor of the Eightfold Path. The Buddha says, in what, monks, is right intention? The intention of renunciation, the intention of non-ill will, the intention of harmlessness. This, monks, is called right intention. So there's 3 things here: renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. Some people translate this to right thinking or right thought, because this is all what's going on in your own mind. You need to have the intention or the thinking or the thought of renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. What renunciation is where you have a willingness to let go of your false beliefs, opinions, and views, and also your unwholesome conduct. Because there's certain moral conduct that is unwholesome and unwise that you're currently doing. If you were to just hold on to all your false beliefs, opinions, and views, and your unwholesome moral conduct, you won't get to enlightenment. So one of the factors of getting to enlightenment is you need to have the thinking or the thought or the intention of being willing to let these things go. Now, you're not bringing in new beliefs in order to replace your old beliefs, right? That's not what you're doing on the path to enlightenment. You're bringing in wisdom. And where you see your wisdom is conflicting with your beliefs, you need to be willing to let go of your beliefs. One of the very first beliefs that you need to let go of is that other people are causing you to be angry, or other people are causing you to be frustrated or annoyed, or any of these other discontent feelings. As long as you hold on to that false belief, that misperception, that confusion and misunderstanding, you won't get to enlightenment. So you need to have the intention or the thinking or the thought to be willing to let these things go. Because if you're experiencing any of these discontent feelings, no matter what your age is, there are certain things about this world that you don't currently understand. If you're experiencing stress or anxiety or guilt or shame or fear or anger or frustration, any of these discontent feelings, there are certain aspects of this world that your mind is not awake to, that you don't have the wisdom of. So if you just hold on to what you currently think, you'll never get to enlightenment. So one of the ways to think about the intention of renunciation is that you need to have an open mind to bring in new wisdom, let go of your false beliefs, opinions, and views, and eliminate your unwholesome conduct, because there's certain harms that you're putting out through your moral conduct that is just producing harm in the relationships around you, and now that harm is going to come back to you. And that's where the second one comes in, the intention of non-ill will. Whenever you're learning English or you're studying English, this double negative is a positive. So non-ill will means goodwill. So you need the intention or the thinking or the thought of goodwill, where you have active goodwill towards all beings without judgment. You're not judging other people to determine whether they deserve your goodwill. Instead, you're just practicing to have this active goodwill where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. The opposite of this would be the bitterness, the harshness, the hostility, the animosity. That's what the opposite of this would be, right? Because as long as you're putting that stuff out, that's what's going to come back to you. So you would like to have loving kindness where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And then the intention of harmlessness is where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. Because as long as you're putting out harm, harm is going to come back to you. So you need the thinking or the thought or the intention of harmlessness, where you're disinterested in causing harm to others. Because anytime you cause harm to someone's material possessions, to their physical body, or their reputation, that harm is going to come back to you. You can't cause other people to be discontent. So you might have people that blame you for their feelings. But if you've independently verified the Four Noble Truths and established right view, you can see that you cause your own discontent feelings, and so does everybody else, right? So while you cannot cause anyone else to be discontent, you can cause them harm. And whenever you cause harm, this harm will come back to you. Causing harm to someone is to harm their material possessions, their physical body, or their reputation. And now, once you understand right view and right intention, that's where you're ultimately going to be able to start moving into the rest of the Eightfold Path next week. But before we do that, let me just summarize this wisdom section, and then I'll open up to whatever remaining questions you guys have. Right view is where you understand the Four Noble Truths. The problem is discontentedness. The cause is craving, desire, attachment, that longing, yearning. The elimination is to eliminate your craving, desires, attachments, and the path forward is the Eightfold Path. That's the complete perfect plan that's going to teach you how to eliminate the craving, desire, attachment, and skillfully work with the mind and get to the point where you no longer experience any discontentedness. Another way to think about right view is establishing where you can accept responsibility for your own feelings, your own intentions, your own speech, and your own actions. Sometimes people blame this on other people, and you might have been doing that throughout your life. And that's okay. That's in the past. But now, if you can see true reality and you can see the wisdom, you can start accepting more and more responsibility and accountability for your own feelings, your own intentions, your speech, and your actions. And that's how you're going to transform it. Because if it's everybody else that is causing you to experience these things, you can't fix anything. You're stuck, right? And that's not true. The Buddha didn't go around teaching everyone else to do things his way. He trained his own mind. And then no matter what other people were doing, he could maintain his peace and joy, right? So by you accepting responsibility for your feelings, intentions, speech, and actions, this empowers you to now do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development, and now really improve as you're making your way on your journey to enlightenment. And that then comes with right intention, where you have the intention of renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. The intention or thinking or thought of renunciation is being willing to let go of your false beliefs, opinions, and views, and your unwholesome conduct. And you have the intention or thinking of thought of non-ill will or goodwill, this active goodwill, this loving kindness towards all beings, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And then you have the intention, thinking, or thought of harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. So let me know what questions you guys have. I will open up to any questions you guys have about the wisdom section of the Eightfold Path, whether it's right view or right intention. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So what we did today with right view and right intention, this forms the wisdom section of the Eightfold Path. This is the foundation that everything else gets built upon. Because next week, I'm going to teach you this moral conduct. And remember, these are natural laws. This isn't rules or commandments. It's helping you to be able to see how you can harm through your speech, actions, and livelihood. Because sometimes you might go into a conversation with what you think are all the best intentions in the world, but now the conversation blows up on you, right? And you might end a relationship because of this. But if you didn't understand right view and right intention, that it was your own mind that was causing these feelings, you might think you're justified in your bitterness and harshness and hostility. So once you establish right view and you understand this wisdom of the Eightfold Path, now it's time to start focusing on your moral conduct. And that's what I'm going to help you with next week. And then, of course, the week after, which is going to help you to put all this stuff into practice. And what you were asking, Adele, is that the mental discipline. You're going to need the moral conduct and mental discipline to go along with this wisdom section to be able to fully understand what you need to be doing on a day-to-day basis to completely transform the mind. And then it's going to take you time to gradually transform it. So I'm just going to end here by thanking all of you guys for joining. I appreciate that you're interested in learning and practicing the teachings of the Buddha. I always enjoy sharing these teachings with the students because this is what's going to help you in life. This is the answers to all the difficult questions that you've always been curious about probably your entire life, that you've been interested in peacefulness, you've been interested in happiness, and you've been interested in fulfilling and sustaining and satisfying relationships, but you just might not have known how to accomplish that. And it's the teachings of the Buddha that are going to help you to understand how to accomplish that. And I'm going to gradually walk you through these over the next 7 months. So next week, as I mentioned, we're going to be in the moral conduct section, and I'm going to walk you through that in a similar way where you can learn, investigate, and examine. You can reflect on it to verify it, and then you can practice it, integrating it into your day-to-day life in order to practice. So remember, if you keep with your meditation practice, where you're gradually building up your meditation practice, and now throughout this week, start looking inward. Whenever you're angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed, because you're not going to be able to snap your fingers and instantly change just because of today's class. So over the coming week, start looking inward and trying to figure out, what are you longing, yearning for in those situations, rather than blaming other people. And start working on cultivating that right intention, where you have the intention of letting go, that you have this intention of non-ill will and harmlessness. And I'll help you next week to be able to understand more. On Wednesday, I'm going to be in the second part of our 4-part series on breathing mindfulness meditation. I'm gradually helping students to build up their breathing mindfulness meditation practice. And if you can't make it live on Wednesdays, Well, some of you guys, it might be Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning. Then remember, there's a recording. It's going to be on our YouTube channel and Facebook and on our podcast. So you can always digest it that way too. So whatever you decide to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Take care. Sawadee ka.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.